Good morning. This is our adult Sunday school lesson for Sunday, June 21st for Mount Vernon Baptist Church. We have an especially powerful lesson today. We have one that will require some thought, and it is a great step along our study journey through the book of Revelation. Our prayer requests today are few but serious. We need to remain much in prayer for those who are among us that are struggling with the virus, and those who are not among us but still struggling with it as well. We need to continue to give prayer cover to those medical workers who are battling the virus on a daily basis. Let's also give a great bit of praise on this Sunday morning. Today's Father's Day. Let's remember all our fathers. Let's remember how hard they work for all of us. And as we give a great praise to all the fathers of our congregation, let's also take a moment to give a great praise to our Heavenly Father who cares for us so much and loves us. Our study today is taken from Revelation 12, all 17 verses. We completed chapter 11 last week, so we'll look exclusively today at chapter 12, and the title of our lesson today is The Great War on Earth. And our application is that the student will realize that although he may be subject to the attacks of Satan, he can overcome evil through the blood of the Lamb. The Lord's word among us this morning comes to us in 17 verses from chapter 12, and the Bible reads this way. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great red dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation, and strength in the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, that ye dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she's nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. May the Lord bless his word read among us as we study and try to understand it. Now, as we take this part of our study journey, it's important as we begin with a very crucial point that needs refocus. During most of this book of revealing, John is in heaven, viewing the things God wishes to be shown to his people through the writings of John. When we are on the earth, we see all things through the point of view of time and its sequence. Our entire lives are so ordered. Eternity is not so ordered. In heaven, time has little or no value. In heaven, the concern is what happens, not when. As we have mentioned before in our study, heaven is a place where now is forever. When John says to us the words after this, he does not mean one thing occurs after another thing. Rather, he means that he saw something after he saw something else. Because now is forever, John is allowed to see things at God's direction, and what he saw was many things to record, and he saw them outside of time itself. We will not be able to properly understand the revealing given to us unless we accept this fact. As the seventh angel has sounded his trumpet, the scene shifts back to heaven. And what John will now see and record are essential to understanding the coming last days. In chapter 12, we see wonders in heaven, a war in heaven, and victory in Jesus revealed. Our understanding is given through three characters: a woman, a dragon, and a child. The woman is Israel, the dragon is Satan, and the child is Jesus. Chapter 12 is likely revealing events during the middle of the 70th week of Daniel. John sees in this chapter two wonders. The first is a woman clothed in the sun. The woman is not Mary. The woman is not the church. We recall the entire church has been raptured away in type in chapter 4. This woman is Israel herself. Israel has continually been described as a woman in the Old Testament. An example being Isaiah 54, verse 1. In her period of rejection, she is called a widow in Isaiah 47, 7 through 9. She is a divorced woman in Isaiah 50, verse 1. She is an adulterous wife in Jeremiah 3 and Hosea 2. Here she is described as being with child and in the travail of childbirth. The seed originally promised in Genesis 3 was to come from Israel. How do we know that? Isaiah 9, 6 through 7 clearly says to us that unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, us to Israel. Before the promised heir could come to Israel, she had to pass through many difficult afflictions and judgments. These were her times of travail. Now in verses 3 through 6, John sees the dragon, another wonder. There can be no question as to who this is, for in verse 9, we see John says, the dragon is the old serpent, the devil, and Satan who deceives the whole world. We notice that we are not left on our own to interpret this moment. John gives us the most direct and clear explanation in all of the book of Revelation. The one that he saw is an amazing view for John, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns. Here are the emblems of his universal dominion over the earth, ruling most kingdoms himself. Our New Testament bears this out for us. In Ephesians 6:12, John 12:31, John 14:30, and John 16:11 all teach us that this dragon, which is Satan, is the prince of the power of the air and the prince of this world. We remember that Jesus did not question the dominion of Satan when the evil one offered to give Jesus kingdoms for one simple moment of worship. While the Antichrist exists from the beginning of the last week of the 7 years, he does not become the beast until the middle of the week. Satan is cast out of heaven, and he incarnates himself in him, and the incarnated one breaks his covenant with Israel, desecrates the temple, becoming the satanic person who rules for the final 3.5 years known as the Great Tribulation. In verses 7 through 9, we see a war in heaven, which is Michael and his holy angels fought against the dragon and his unholy angels. The dragon and all of his angels were defeated and cast out of heaven onto the earth. Verse 4 teaches us that this dragon took 1/3 of the angels of heaven with him when he was defeated and banished to the earth. Jesus himself confirmed this event for us in Luke 10:18 when he said, "I saw Satan like lightning fall from heaven." The angels who fell with him became his demons and have worked throughout man's history to sow seeds of temptation and rebellion very successfully. When Satan will be chained and sent to the bottomless pit for almost 1,000 years, it seems he takes all of these evil ones with him as they do not appear during the millennial reign. While we see clearly Satan and his followers are banished from residing in heaven, he himself still attends meetings in the heavenly realm. We see in Job 1 and in Job 2, he is still our adversary before God, and he reports to God that he's walking to and fro upon the earth. Now John sees the dragon standing before the woman who is giving birth to the Messiah. He seeks to devour the child as soon as it comes. Satan clearly recalls the curse that was placed by God upon him in Genesis 3, and he knows that this one coming will crush his head. Yes, Satan accomplished the fall of Adam and Eve in the garden, and he knows also that if the man-child given to Israel goes to the cross, that redemption will be given to the believers there. So his work is now urgent to stop the life of this promised one. Satan had seen the man-child Abel, and he saw that Abel gave acceptable sacrifice and worship of God, and he quickly arranged his death by murder to stop such acceptance. Then his unholy ones married the daughters of men and fathered unholy offspring, focused on sin, and brought on the flood. God restarted the process with Noah and his family in Genesis 9. And 2 chapters later in Genesis 11, Satan arranged the rebellion of the Tower of Babel. Satan was sure that Sarah and Abraham were both well beyond childbearing age. But God, in his infinite wisdom, opened the 90-year-old womb of the mother of Isaac, and the child of promise was born. In Genesis 25, the wife of Isaac, Rebekah, was barren, and Satan seemed safe again. But her prayers were heard, and her womb was opened, and twins were born of her. In the time for Moses to be born, Satan put in the heart of Pharaoh to kill all the males born to the Jews. But God once more resolved to save the plan from everlasting. Pharaoh himself raised Moses in his own house. During the captivity of the Jews, Satan tried to destroy the entire Hebrew nation through Haman. Here God used a beautiful Hebrew maiden named Esther to strengthen her heart, and Haman was hung on his own gallows. Again and again and again, Satan has worked diligently to overcome the curse placed upon him in the garden. Now he seeks to devour the man-child coming into the nation of Israel, who will deliver his ultimate end. He himself will later possess one of the apostles named Judas, who will sell Jesus to the temple masters. Jesus was well aware of this effort, and in John 17, he called this one a son of perdition. Now John saw that the man-child, which was Jesus, was indeed born. He is said to be the ruler of all nations with the rod of iron, and will be caught up unto God and to his throne. Between this event in verse 5 and the next verse where the woman flees into the wilderness for 1260 days, the church age occurs. Between these two verses, 5 and 6, the gap between the 69th and the 70th week is found. The 5th verse describes the birth of Jesus and his ascension. The 6th verse anticipates the promise fulfilled to the church at Thyatira, where the promise of the rod of iron was given not to the whole church, but only to the overcomers. But God assures that Satan cannot destroy Israel, the woman, just as he assured their pathway from Egypt to the promised land, even though they provoked him many times. Now will be the intense persecution of the last half of the tribulation directed toward Israel, led by Satan and his unholy ones. But thanks be to God, we see much more than this terror in view by John. Verses 10 through 17 provide the accuser cast down, as we've already seen. He's been overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the testimony given by those who were sent to do exactly that. The 144,000 servants sealed by God, and those who accepted the truth through their work. In verses 13 through 17, we have the assurance that God will protect Israel, the woman, just as God had promised to Abraham over 4,000 years before today. We see a symbol of wings given to her by God that she may flee swiftly to the wilderness for the last 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation. This wilderness hiding place is known only to God, and no clues are given to John or to us as to that destination of safety. Even though Satan will try to harm her through a flood of water, the Lord will command the earth itself to open and swallow such flooding to preserve his chosen ones from the Antichrist. The devil is said to know that his time is short and his defeat is sure. Once more, God will protect those who are his. Our last verse of this part of our study journey, verse 17, shows the continued war that Satan wages against the remnant of the seed of the woman. These are said to keep the commandments of God who have the testimony of Jesus Christ. These will be very trying times for the remnant who will not bow their knee to the image of the beast, and they will not accept the one incarnated as Satan's false Messiah, the Antichrist. Many will be martyred, just as we studied in Revelation 6, 9 through 11, when Jesus told those souls who had been killed for his name to rest and wait for revenge, as more had to die before resolution would come. Next week in chapter 13, we will see the details of the war against this remnant and the further unfolding of Satan's work, which remains under the command of heaven until the coming of Jesus to fight the final battle. We should close today with the promise that was given to us by Paul in Romans 9:27 that confirms for us the words written down 30 years before Revelation was penned down. Here's what he said in this important verse: though the number of the children of Israel be as sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I'll see you right back here next week.